सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। ॐ विश्वं दर्पणदृश्यमाननगरी तुल्यं निजान्तर्गतं पश्यन्नात्मनिमायया बहिर्वोद्भूतं यथा निद्रया यत्साक्षात् कुरुते प्रबोधसमये स्वात्मानमेवाद्वयं तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः। इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। So I thought what we would do is to play both of the repetition, the one repetition, the original one and the repetition by Gabriella today. And then next time we will just play only one. And then that will be the last time that we will play the Gabriella. And then after that we can do our own chanting. And so we'll have more time to for the class itself. So with that, let's listen to the repeated chanting by Gabriella.
यज्जाग्रतो दूरमुदैति दैवं तदु सुप्तस्य तथैवैति दूरङ्गमं ज्योतिषां ज्योतिरेकं तन्मे मनः शिवसङ्कल्पमस्तु येन कर्माण्यपसो मनीषिणो यज्ञे कृण्वन्ति विदधेषु धीराः यदपूर्वं यक्षमन्तः प्रजानां तन्मे मनः शिवसङ्कल्पमस्तु यत्प्रज्ञानमुत चेतो धृतिश्च यज्ज्योतिरन्तरमृतं प्रजासु यस्मान्नऋते किञ्चन कर्म क्रियते तन्मे मनः शिवसङ्कल्पमस्तु येनेदं भूतं भुवनं भविष्यत् परिगृहीतममृतेन सर्वं येन यज्ञस्तायते सप्तहोता तन्मे मनः शिवसङ्कल्पमस्तु यस्मिन् ऋचः सामयजूगुंषि यस्मिन् प्रतिष्ठिता रथनाभाविवाराः यस्मिन् कश्चित्तगुं सर्वमोतं प्रजानान् तन्मे मनः शिवसङ्कल्पमस्तु सुषारथिरश्वानि वयन्मनुष्यान्ने नीयते भीषुभिर्वाजिन इव हृत्प्रतिष्ठं यदजिरञ्जविष्ठम् तन्मे मनः शिवसङ्कल्पमस्तु यज्जाग्रतो दूरमुदैति दैवं तदु सुप्तस्य तथैवैति दूरङ्गमं ज्योतिषां ज्योतिरेकं तन्मे मनः शिवसङ्कल्पमस्तु येन कर्माण्यपसो मनीषिणो यज्ञे कृण्वन्ति विदथेषु धीराः यदपूर्वं यक्षमन्तः प्रजानां तन्मे मनः शिवसङ्कल्पमस्तु यत्प्रज्ञानमुत चेतो धृतिश्च यज्ज्योतिरन्तरमृतं प्रजासु यस्मान्नर्ते किञ्चन कर्म क्रियते तन्मे मनः शिवसङ्कल्पमस्तु येनेदं भूतं भुवनं भविष्यत् परिगृहीतममृतेन सर्वम् येन यज्ञस्तायते सप्तहोता तन्मे मनः शिवसङ्कल्पमस्तु यस्मिन् ऋचः सामयजूगुंषि यस्मिन् प्रतिष्ठिता रथनाभाविवाराः यस्मिन् किश्चित्तगुं सर्वमोतं प्रजानां तन्मे मनः शिवसङ्कल्पमस्तु सुषारथिरश्वानि वयन्मनुष्यान्ने नीयतेभिषुभिर्वाजिन इव हृत्प्रतिष्ठं यदजिरञ्जविष्ठं तन्मे मनः शिवसङ्कल्पमस्तु तन्मे मनः शिवसङ्कल्पमस्तु तन्मे मनः शिवसङ्कल्पमस्तु तन्मे मनः शिवसङ्कल्पमस्तु
Silent this. All right. So, what this text is all about is to understand how we are caught up in our experiences exclusively without understanding the nature of our experiences, how it comes about, what is the truth about myself, what is my relationship to my experiences. So all of that is really what we need to move towards if we want to obtain a sense of freedom. Not a sense of freedom, if we want to understand the freedom that we already have, but we don't know it. So as a result of that, as you know, we are continuing this jananam and maranam, this whole cycle, until the clarity of basically it is to find Ishvara. And as we will see more and more here, and also even more in the Mandukya Karika, finding Ishvara we ultimately find it within ourselves. In fact, we find not even within ourselves. And as unlikely and as unacceptable that might be, this is what we have to move towards. So it is okay to search Ishvara in a conventional way, but ultimately it all comes together. And so to understand this, we must also understand how our mind works, how it takes me away from myself, duram udaiti, and then it comes back to me. But I don't recognize that. It's just, I'm caught up in this play of revelation and dissipation, but not really understanding exactly how it is going on. And it isn't until we begin to peel off the details of how my mind works, until then, it would remain a distant vision that, I will gain moksha. Right now I'm doing this, that, or the other. It's not going to happen. It requires a lot of vichara, and that vichara, along with the viveka, as we've seen, requires some very careful thinking. Yeah, kind of like this. This is what we have to contemplate, we have to think about it, we have to recognize, and we have to meditate. And then if we do that, then the entirety of the truth becomes clear to us. So anyway, that's what the text is all about. So it's a very beautiful text and very useful, I think, once we, and it's short enough that we can put our arms around it and really begin to enjoy chanting it and to understand the meaning of it. So I'm looking forward to completing this whole text. So what we did last time was to define Shiva and Sankalpa. And then we also put it together, Shiva Sankalpamastu. May my mind, so this is called Kriya Pada. Astu means a Kriya Pada. Kriya means a step for taking some action. And so may I take the actions to do Sankalpa on Shiva. So we need to understand what are the constituents of it and what happens when we put it together. So we'll proceed today. So we saw that Shiva has three aspects that are something that we should recognize. Number one is Kalyanam. Kalyanam means that we should understand that this is good for me. This is what, kind of like if you have some kind of a disease like diabetes or something, then a certain amount of what the diet is, what the advice from the doctor is good for me. That's the Kalyanam. It's recognized. There's no mystery about diabetes. It has been done for a long time. And then all I need to do is I should trust it and then go forward with whatever I need to do to obtain the freedom from the disease. Similarly here also, Shiva is Kalyanam. It is good for me. This I must trust. You don't have to. This is okay. You can say, why do I have to do that from the Vedas? I can do this, I can do, Buddhism, I can do Jainism, I can do this, that, or the other. They're all the same, pretty much. But the clarity of Vedas is just remarkable. And so we have to trust it, that this is Kalyanam. This is number one. The second aspect of Shiva, as we saw, is Dharma. So Dharma means doing the right thing in my life. That also requires a lot of trust and requires instructions. Because the way our birth is in families and society and so on, the emphasis on dharma may not be as clear as it should be. Our parents also may cut corners. They may also may not be completely dharmic. And so this is a very independent thing that we have to do. We have to really come to the point. And this dharma is also pointed out by the Vedas, which is this offshoot of the Kalyanam. So dharma, I mean, could be, I'm just taking an example that for instance, if the doctor says that diabetes is your issue and you have to do kinds of things, so here is what your program is going to be. For breakfast, you have to do this. You have to also take some medicines if you need to. And then for lunch, you need to do that. And so the trust in what I need to do, what is the right thing for us to do. And all the doctors will say, because I'm also diabetic, all the doctors will say that you can occasionally eat, it's okay. Supposing you have a birthday party, especially your own grandchildren or something, and you say, no, I can. No, you don't have to do that. You can eat once in a while, but then go back to so this is dharma. The third aspect of Shiva is my own self, Atma. Aikyam of Paramatma and Atma. And that is the real meaning of Shiva. Shiva is Atma. Chaturtham manyate. Sa Shiva sa Atma. This is all given in the Upanishads. So those are the three definitions of Shiva. Then let's go to Sankalpa. And I'm just revising this from last time. You may have had the time to look this up, but in case you didn't, I'm just revising this. Sankalpa has three main elements and two subsidiary elements. The most important Sankalpa, Sankalpa actually, before I go to the three elements, you know what the definition of Sankalpa is? It's a Samyak Kalpana. Samyaktva Kalpana. Samyaktva means well ascertained. Because we know we have some casual desires and you go someplace and he says, I should come here sometime. This is often happens. Somebody mentions, you've got to, there's a new restaurant, Indian restaurant that has just opened locally and it's really wonderful. It's, so you say, that's good, I'll go there. But like a lot of other things, you don't think about it that much. But suppose you have some kalpana. Kalpana means some ascertained idea that this is something I really want to do. I want to do this. Then this is what is called Sankalpa. So there are three elements of Sankalpa. One is that either told by someone or your own discovery, this is good. So it all comes from Kalyanam, Dharma and Paramatma. But it is good, it is not make-believe, it is something that is real. So this is what is called Satta Pradhanata. Satta Pradhanata means that it is for real. This is something which is worth, this is number one. The second one is that it has some distinct qualities about it. Either a place of visit or a food or something which is which attracts you, which engages you. So that's the second one. So the first one is Satta Pradhana. The second one is probably Chintana Pradhana. Chintana pradhana means that it needs to really be thought about and pursued. Okay, so that's the second one. The third one is that what I will attain is worthwhile to me. Because you don't do a sankalpa or something which is not, doesn't mean anything to you. You won't do that. So the sankalpa means that this is something which is good and I need to do that. So these are the three elements. Then the fourth and the fifth subsidiary elements are that I have a chance of about doing that. It's realistic. It's realistic because sometimes, you can think about a distant country which looks nice, but I'm not going to go there. So you don't have a sankalpa to go there. Like, for example, I have visited very few countries, but traveled very little. For business, I used to go to Europe. I've seen a few countries there. And even in India, I have not traveled that much. I've left India at the age of 23. And the US also, I don't travel that much because I've been studying Vedanta. And so there's no need I don't want to go anywhere. I'm happy. So I don't really have a sankalpa for going to some exotic places. Because if it may be real, it may have some special gunas, but it is not worthwhile for me. And therefore, there's no. So the last two ones of sankalpa is, it is worthwhile for me to attain it, and one day I will attain it. So when you have all these elements of the sankalpa, then the sankalpa becomes real. Okay. So now let's apply these two sets of definitions of Shiva and Sankalpa and put it together. Shiva Sankalpamastu. Hey mind of mine, because you are the boss of the mind, and you need to guide it. Need to guide it, just like the horses, the simile of the horses in the Bhagavad Gita, that unless you have all the reins, the horses are just free to go anywhere. So our mind also can, and it often does. And in fact, if you don't check it in time, it becomes your boss. Then it says, oh, let's do this, let's go for an ice cream. And then you say, okay, let's go for an ice cream. You might protest, I think that's too many calories. And he says, it's okay. No, just enjoy. So you say, okay, let's enjoy. So you're just, the mind becomes the boss, and you're just following it. So, Shiva Sankalpa Mastu means, please get hold of the mind and guide it in the right direction. Because the mind is going to have a question. Okay, all right, so you want me to meditate on Shiva. What is Shiva? And you're not clear about it yet. So you can't really guide the mind. And the mind says, see, you're not a guide for me. You're just giving me some instructions that you cannot follow through. So I'm just going to go on my own. So therefore, the guidance has to be done with knowledge. And so this is what we're doing. So, here in Shiva Sankalpa, again, there are these 4 or 5 elements of putting it together. Number 1 is Satta Pradhanata, which is it's just a follow through of what we have already done. Real, first one should be real, Samyaktva Kalpana, all should be real, etc. This is called Satta Pradhanata. So the Satta Pradhanata means that everything has to be attractive to you and worthwhile for you. Whether it is guna, or it is dharma, or it is atma. All three of them must have these elements. Number one is satta pradhanata. The second one is chinta pradhanata. Means that you have to think about it. You have to explore. You have to do vichara. Because just accepting it, you say, oh, my teacher is so good. I think whatever he or she says, I think that sounds good enough. I'm just going to do it. No. You hopefully you trust the judgment of the teacher, but you now have to follow through with your own analysis and your own vichara, your own thinking. The second one is chinta pradhanata. The third one is ananda pradhanata. And the ananda pradhanata is the offshoot of the Shiva's meaning of Paramatma. And what that means is you have to do viveka. And we have done, this is all, you're all advanced people, you know all of that. You have to do viveka. What is the real source of my ananda? Even if you do, so this is what we went through in great detail in the Panchadashi, so you said Vishayananda. So even if you have Vishayananda means the ananda of eating ice cream. There also, even though it appears to come from the ice cream, but you have to analyze what is the source of that ananda. And as a knowledgeable Vedantic student, you will see that all that ice cream does is to invoke my own ananda. Ice cream itself doesn't have any ananda. None of the objects have any ananda. Its only source of ananda is the self. And all that does is it invokes it, it uncovers it. So this kind of an analysis also has to be done. So therefore, the Ananda Pradhanata is another way to look at Shiva Sankalpa Mastu. And then of course finally it is Advitiyata, which takes a longer time to understand. Ajnana Nivaranam, all of the Advayam. We'll actually go through some aspects of that today itself. But ultimately, Advaita has to be established, which means I am the very thing that I am seeking, as you know very well. Okay, now let us move ahead. So in almost like up to this point, it was the revision from last week. I'm sorry. Gosh, half hour has passed by. So not that much time left. Okay, so now we have also seen, by the way, to recall the various ways that my mind operates. There were 6 of them, if I can just take my notes from last time. Remember? The 6 ways, and so that will come handy in my next analysis. So the 6th one is, I'll very quickly go through, I won't revise it. On waking up, it takes me far. Number 1. Secondly, it lights up things. My mind lights up. And in fact, my mind is responsible for lighting it up. Lighting up things is not by itself. It requires the mind. The mind is kind of like a light. And if you don't believe that, you can see that when the mind is absent, which is it is in deep sleep, it's like the light has been shut off. You don't see anything. So it lights up things. It has the ability. It borrows the light from the Atma, of course. Kind of like, these bulbs. It borrows it from the sun. All energy is from the sun. But nevertheless, it can be switched off and on. So it lights up things to the whole room. So the mind is like that. You need the mind to light things up. The third thing we saw was it can even light up the Paramatma. So this one we need to see. It's kind of like, how can you light up, this is kind of like the light that is emanating from a torchlight, flashlight. And how can the light of the flashlight light up the torch itself? And the way it does is, it doesn't, obviously cannot do that. We know that. We're not making things up. But by doing viveka, it understands that the Atma is what I am dependent on. I am not an independent mind. I am in fact being lighted up by the Atma. And it has to go through a full analysis. You have to understand what is Chaitana. You have to, as we will probably do that today. What is Jada? Am I Jada or am I Chaitana? The mind has to say that. Jada means an appliance. Chaitana means the electricity. And so the appliance cannot light up the electricity, but it has the ability to understand that I am dependent on the electricity. This is the lighting up of the Paramatma. Anyway, we'll go through all that. Then the number 4 is, it returns to the Atma while sleeping. It disappears. The 5th one is, it is present in all the sense organs, as we saw. You cannot see, hear, touch, smell, anything until the mind is there. Same thing. And the last one, number 6, is it has the ability to be absorbed and focused, staying at one thing. Even though, and this also we will go through some more details today, some very interesting details. Even though it can flow, but it has the ability to not flow. Kind of like water. The dravyata. Dravyata means the fluidness of water is natural to it. And it can flow, but it doesn't have to flow. You see the water in a glass, like this one. It's just sitting there doing nothing. Very calm. Or you can move it and make waves out of it. I might as well drink some. So anyway, those are the 6 elements of the mind 6 aspects of the mind that we saw last time. So now we are ready to put together, what does Shiva Sankalpamastu mean in terms of these 6 things. So what it means is, you let the mind do what it does. Wake up, go to sleep, light up things, analyze, be quiet, not be quiet, all of that. Let it, that's okay. You don't force to discipline it in any way. This is not natural. This is the natural thing that Ishvara has given us. But when you are engaged in these various aspects of the mind, remember Shiva at that time. So in Hindi he says, Swamiji says, परमात्मा को संकल्प से भर कर, meaning that whatever you are doing, you think about Shiva. What do you mean by think about Shiva? Well, what it means is, and this has to be done, it has to be done gradually. It is not going to happen overnight. And this is exactly what happened now. It's the same thing with me. I'm not telling you something that, that you get so involved in things and so on. And what is the role of the self? What is the role of Paramatma? It's just, you don't even think about that. But this is what we have to do. If we want to make progress, we often say that, it looks like I'm clear when I'm listening to it and in the class, but then this is not practical, it just goes away. The reason it is that you're not used to understanding that Shiva is involved in everything that you're doing. And the only way you will understand that is to slowly get accustomed to it. That's it. Then your job will be done. Yatra yatra mano yati tatra tatra samadhayaha. Then you don't have a special meditation. Close the door. Om, Om. There I feel okay. But now if I'm going around doing things and so on and so forth, it's gone. That's because we are not accustomed to bringing Shiva into the various picture. So anyway, what it means is that Paramatma ke sampal se bhar kar. So means that you are experiencing something, but try to bring in the aspects of Shiva. One aspect is dharma. Let's just take that as an example. When you're doing something, make sure that it fulfills the condition of, is it dharma? It is not something we are not used to. If we just listen to our conscience, I should be doing this. You take out another piece of chocolate and you've already had one. Your conscience says, no, please. This is Shiva, the Dharma. And you have a choice of doing things. Think about what is Kalyanam for you. What is the right thing for you to do? And then eventually you will see, my gosh, I as the conscious Jnanam is participating in everything. In fact, nothing can be done without me. So that is also Shiva. So really at this point, what Shiva Sankalpa Mastu means, that's not that you drastically change the nature of your mind, but to understand that the mind should be filled with the accompanying thoughts of Shiva. And this is what we have to practice. Abhyasa is what Sri Krishna also advises. Abhyasena tu kaunteya. Because Arjuna says, my mind goes all over. What can I do? I don't understand that. He says, it's okay. Just be in control. And abhyasa. So this is what Shiva Sankalpa must to mean in terms of the definition of the various functions. And so that applies to then all of the, see, you can apply that Shiva Sankalpa when it is going out, when it is lighting up things, when it is coming back. Like for example, I've now gotten used to, before I go to sleep and the lights are off, I make it a point to just quietly meditate just before going to sleep. Because before that, if you're busy, you're doing things, this or the other, you may not have that. At least when you are with yourself and nothing else to do. But what happens is, your mind is still busy. You see, it's interesting, Swami Akhandananda, all the acharyas say that for going to sleep, you don't have to do anything. In fact, what you need to do is not to do anything. You cannot, the more you try, I remember this so well. When I was a teenager, maybe in college or somewhere, I could not sleep as well as I wanted to. And it was very frustrating. I'm sure many of you might have had the same experience. Because you're discovering, your mind is so busy and doing things and so on. And the more you force yourself to sleep, the less you sleep. Then the art of going to sleep comes a little bit later on in life. At least for me it did. But now, unless I am really, unless I have to get up for, I think this is why I made sure that this class, in the Saturday class, starts at 8:30, not at 8 o'clock. Because I remember when I used to go to Milpitas, then I would have to put an alarm to make sure that I don't oversleep. Making it go to 8:30 and not have to go to Milpitas, I don't have to put an alarm. But I still wake up at the same time, 4:30. On Saturdays for sure, even other time. These days, these cricket matches are going on. Somebody told me about because I used to be a very dedicated cricket player. I was the captain of my college cricket team, opening batsman. And so I used to play a lot of cricket. But then for the last 40, 50 years, that's my nature. Whatever is gone is gone. I don't dwell on it. Recently, however, somebody told me, hey, did you know there was a World Cup going on? So I said, well, really? What does that mean? He says, oh, there are 10 teams that they play. I said, I'm okay. I don't really. He says, no. If you go to Comcast, you can go to Willow and it's right there. So I actually came home and bought the 1 month pass for Willow for $15.95. And that day it was the first match between Australia and India. And so it was an important match. And this friend of mine who told me about this, he says, matches start at 1:30 and I'm going to get up. I said, I am not going to get up at 1:30. Okay, I'll get up in the morning. I'm an early riser. And so what I've been doing for the last few weeks, when I get up and I have a cup of tea before I start studying, I just turn the TV on. And if India is playing, then I actually watch it off and on. If somebody else is playing, I don't. But anyway, my sleep comes naturally. This is all I wanted to say. So all they're saying is that sleep does not require any work. And please, before you go to sleep, do not get into a habit of thinking about things. I didn't do this today. Don't even do that. It's gone. And if you can, when you shut the light off, the best time to think about Shiva, about the self, about Paramatma. The more you study, the more you bring it up. And you will find, as I'm finding, that I cannot even stay awake. I would love to really do some thinking and meditation for 5 or 10 minutes, but I can't. I don't know exactly when, but it doesn't take me more than 3 minutes to go to sleep. And the same thing on waking up. On waking up, before you really become engaged with different things, Pratar smarami, hridi samsparadatma tattvam. You do that for a while. So at least in those 2 moments. So those is yad jagrato duram udaiti daivam tatu suptasya tatha evaiti. At least at that time, Duram gamam jyotisham jyotihi ekam tanme manas sankalpamastu. And then all these other places, then you have to get used to it. And as this is so beautifully done in the Mandukya Karika, it's unbelievable. But Swami Akhandananda points out that, my goodness, whenever you are having problems or not having problems, you are still Brahman. Think about that. Anyway, we'll come to that later. So, where were we? Okay. Anyway, all I was saying was that all the 6 different stages of the manaha that we have talked about, fill it up with thoughts of Shiva. Let do whatever you're doing. But at the same time, do not ignore this very important fact, which is the truth. Don't ignore it. Don't say that doesn't mean anything to me. Have a sankalpa towards it. So that's what it means. Okay, now it's interesting. Swami Akhandananda kind of takes a pause in this analysis and brings up 2 qualities of the mind. 2 qualities. One of them is, and this is all, even though this is a pause in the sequence, but an understanding of how the mind works with these 2 gunas that we are going to discuss is helpful. And those 2 are, what is the mind made up of? What is the material of the mind? Very interesting, very important. So this is what is called Manaha Pancha Tanmatratvam. Tanmatra means the Pancha Tanmatra, of course, as you know, is space, Akasha, Vayu, Agni, fire, Apaha, water, and Prithvi, the earth. These are the Pancha Mahabhutas. This is the material. This is the material cause. This is the Upadana Karanam of the mind, which is through the Maya Shakti of Ishvara. So really speaking, the Upadana Karanam is the Maya. It is the mind. And what is it made out of? What do you mean by Pancha Tanmatra? Anyway, this is one aspect of the mind, and I think I'll be able to cover hopefully both of them. Yeah, I think I'll cover both of them. And then we will resume the sequence of Shiva Sankalpa Sukta. Okay? So the first one is that the manaha is made up of the subtle aspects of these Pancha Mahabhutas. I think you all know this. We have already covered that. We know what is the Rajasa Amsha. This is all given in even in the basic books like Tattva Bodha. That you have this Sattva Amsha, you have Rajo Amsha, and then you have Tamo Amsha. You have all three of these five Tanmatras. So let's look at Swamiji's explained very nicely how the qualities of the Tanmatra have now become the mind. Okay, so you will see this. So the first one then, we are going to do it in the reverse order. Not from Akasha first, but from the Prithvi first and going up to more and more subtle, which is the Akasha. So the first one is Prithvi Tanmatra. So Prithvi Tanmatra means that Prithvi also can be in different shapes and different forms. Like for example, it can be a rock, unmovable, very secure, stable. And on the other side could be a sandy beach. So you just, there's no, you put your foot on it, it goes down. There's no stability. And so that's also an aspect of the Prithvi. So the mind borrows those qualities from the Prithvi. So the mind can in fact be very fickle, like a sand, and consists of various combinations of thoughts. You can make lots of different shapes, or it can be very stable, thoughtful. It can do that. It can do that. And this we will talk about a little bit later on. Okay, so that is the Prithvi Tanmatra. Then goes to Jala Tanmatra, Apa Tanmatra. In Apa Tanmatra means that it has dravyata. It can flow. Of course, this is what the mind is. On 1 minute, you are looking at the sofa. Another minute, you're looking at the TV. And the sofa is gone. Now the TV forms the mind. And if it was not there, then the couch, the sofa would still be sitting there. TV will be sitting on top of that. No. It can flow. And so now, in this Apa Tanmatra, the borrowing of the quality from water, it has two aspects. What is called Bahistha and one is Antastha. Bahistha means that the flow follows what you are seeing. Your thoughts take the shape of the drishya that you see. And the problem with that is that mind takes on the qualities of things that you see. Things that you see are unreliable. They are a potential source of problem, not always, but potential, and changing. And you are dependent on it. So this is the Bahistha Tanmatra. Then you have the Antastha Tanmatra. And so this one is really important to see because the internal Tanmatra Jal Tanmatra. Even though that is also flowing, just like the water, but it is more dependent. Independent, not the other way around. It is independent, secure, more fun, and tinged with the support of Parameshwara. Parameshwara also outside as well as inside. But the chintanam, the thinking about yourself and what is much more pleasant, secure, independent. Anyway, so that is the Jal Tanmatra. The third one is Tejas Tanmatra. And that means desire. That's like fire. So you see, that's the fire, you're borrowing it from the fire. And anytime you're upset, anytime you're in fact angry, it burns you. My Swami Akhandananda makes such a beautiful point on this. I tell you, I learned a lot. He says, please observe this. When you get angry at somebody, to do this sometimes, Swami Dayananda used to say that. He says, okay, I want you all to get angry. You can't. You cannot dictate anger. But it comes all of a sudden as a surprise. Most importantly, you did not expect, you were thinking this is going to happen. It doesn't happen. So anyway, when the anger comes, as Swami Akhandananda is saying, please see the following. It's like the fire which burns you first before it burns somebody else. What a lovely insight to the fire. He says that it is not until we become very clear that anger, or in a more muted form, being upset, ragadvesha, harms you more than anybody else. It can also harm somebody else. You get angry, you can do something to the person. Yes. Well, before you do that, it first harms you. So that quality of the mind, which is borrowed from fire, is also there. So you look at how the fire borrows these 5 different tanmatras. Prithvi, Jala, Apaha, Tejas. Then comes Vayu tanmatra. Of course we know that. Very swift. Goes far. And is trembling. So example, sometimes even when you're with trembling with fear, it moves. And then whenever you are thinking of something far away, that's the mind. It goes far. So very gati. Gati means speed. The swiftest thing in the world is the mind. You immediately think about India, you're there. Think about your mom and your dad who are not there, you're there. So anyway, so this is the Vayu Guna that the mind has. Then the last one is Akasha. And the Akasha means that you can in fact be devoid of anything. There is nothing there. And so yogas, when they do the samadhi, that is the Akasha Guna that comes about. Anyway, so this is what we should see is the material that the mind is made out of. And one interesting thing to see is that the Pancha Mahabhutas, So the Pancha Mahabhutas is what everything is made out of, including your mind. So the mind is a substance, as we have seen this. It borrows the quality of the Pancha Mahabhutas. Beautiful, very nice. Then, the second aspect of the mind, so the first aspect is Panchatanmatra Manasaha Panchatanmatratvam. The second one is Ayatanatvam. Ayatana. What is Ayatana? Ayatana means it is in fact the basis of all thoughts. In that sense, it is like the space. So the space is the basis of all things happening. Light happens in space. Sound happens in space. Sources of light are in space. Lighted objects are in space. It is the ayatanam for the whole world. And that is the sthula aspect of it. Okay? Space is the sthula aspect, means you can see it. The mind is also the ayatanam. In fact, you know what? The mind is the ayatanam of space. You can say, what? How is the mind the ayatanam of space? What is the base? It's the basis of the space itself. It is. You know why? When the mind is absent in deep sleep, there is no space. Space is absent. And the mind is awake. The first thing it can visualize is the space and time. So therefore, the mind is a more fundamental ayatanam of everything. So, we'll go into a little bit more analysis, but before we do that, so remember the overall lesson of this ayatanatvam. Excuse me a second. So the ayatanatvam of space, of the mind means, this is the main thing. The entire set of experiences, my whole life, is contained in the mind. So you can say, I thought it was all contained in the Atma. No. The Atma is not affected. It's not affected. The mind is the expression of life. See, one can say, for example, when you say, supposing you say, I'm alive. I'm alive. I'm living. So this life Is this Atma? In the truest sense of this analysis, no. What? If I am alive is not the Atma, then what is it? It is the mind. So the ayatanam of life is the mind. It sounds funny, but think about it. Your reality is not whether you are alive or not, you are. The life is one aspect of what you are. So the whole idea that I'm living is also a expression of an appliance. It's like saying I'm on, I'm off. But the electricity in that example is never off or on. It's always there. So it's even beyond the mind, as we will see in this analysis of Omkara. But the mind is now the true ayatanam of everything. In fact, the entire set of experiences are nothing but the expression of the mind. So Swami Akhandananda actually, at every point, pardon me for clearing my throat. I thought I was okay in the morning, but somehow I didn't. Gives the references from Upanishads. So I believe this is from the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. Both of them, Brihadaranyaka and Chandogya. So, manaha ayatanatvam ime sarve loka. So says this is the ayatanam for the entire set of experiences. So this is from the Upanishads. So all the experiences, even life, is born in the mind, stays in it, and dissolves in it, resolves in it. It is the true ayatanam of all my experiences. And when you are awake, you see the world. When the mind is awake, the world comes around. When the mind is asleep, the world disappears. So clearly, it is in fact the source of the entire set of experiences. It controls. I think that I will now close the class here and talk a few other aspects of this and then move on to a new topic. This next few things are still connected to the ayatanatvam of manaha. So I will finish doing that, and then we will launch into a new topic relative to the mind that would be revealing about the nature of the most important instrument at my disposal, which is the mind. So with that, we'll continue next week. Om Asatoma Sadgamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Okay, Balamani. Shiva Pancha Atsara, 5 elements. Connection of mind with the 5 elements. How some saints mingle with Shiva in their short period of life. I do not understand your question, Balaji. I don't see the connection of the Pancha Mahabhutas, of the 5 elements with the mind, with your saying how some saints mingle with Shiva in their short period of life. Okay, so maybe I can, I think I can. So when you say saints, that means informed jivas. Yeah, so these are very, I can understand what you're saying. So these are Jivan Muktas who in their very short span of life are able to see this truth. So I think the fact of the matter is that all of us are in a long-term status of a journey. And sometimes when the saints appear to be able to reach Shiva in their lifespan, it is because they have done a lot of preparations in their previous life. So they appear to be just normal people on the surface, but deep inside them is a very heightened sense of understanding, of love, of forgiveness, all the qualities, dharmic qualities, and they are ready. And so once you're ready, it doesn't take any time. The whole thing comes to a boil very quickly. And in fact, I think one can even say just the opposite, that why does it take so long? How is it that many of us can see some aspects of it, but we are not quite there yet? You know, it's a very major discovery, and my ignorance of the self has so many layers that it takes a while for it to be unfolded. It's like an onion. You take an outer layer and there's another layer. You take that out, there is still another layer. And it isn't, I mean, this is not a great example, but it isn't until you remove all the layers, and it might take some time to do so. So yeah, so I guess my answer to your, I think if I understand your question is not just one life. This is a long-term process, and if somebody is able to do this in any life, that means a lot of preparation has been done prior to that. That's the way I would understand. All right. Thank you all. We'll hopefully see you next week. Hari Om.